Good morning. Welcome to Shambles Stay at Home Festival.
Hello.
And I should say that one of our guests today, we've decided the best room anyone's broadcast from in the last 11 days. So you're going to find out who that is shortly. How are you, Josie Long?
I'm all right. I can't complain. I won't complain. I mustn't complain. Yeah, I'm fine. I've just had a 3-hour long morning so far with my daughter where I turned around and she was stood on her little table painting, scribbling on the wall. It was a 3-second turnaround. How? she's like this little imp. So we did that. We played a game where Sophie the giraffe wanted her to find animals and things of different colours. So we've really had a good day. I'm exhausted. It's 10 a.m. How are you?
The thing that I'm enjoying most in this time, because obviously my son is considerably older. He's 12, and some of the things that we've got time for now. He already was an enormous fan of the sitcom Friends, which I'd never seen. I never saw that, and so but the things that joyous are watching the young ones, which I mentioned already, and the delight when we watch Friday Night Dinner. The delight of that laughter, which I think there's a certain age, there's a certain period of time where there's a certain laugh, a reaction every time Mark Heap comes on as Jim. And Mark Heap is one of the greatest. I mean, the whole thing is brilliant. I think it's an absolute work of art and utterly. But our delight as we look at each other and go, oh, he's here. Something's going to happen now. Something's going to happen now. This could be good. And also the lovely, and I do apologise that I've forgotten her name. She only died earlier this year. But Nana. In Friday Night Dinner, a wonderful actor, and she is so brilliant in it. And I hadn't realised. We'll check her. I'm so sorry for forgetting her name. But she was also in the original Taste of Honey production. So it's a really interesting thing to see someone who started off playing, a teenager, and then you see her at the end of her career playing quite hilariously a wonderful kind of old grandmother, eccentric grandmother character.
Do you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of seeing the film of Long Day's Journey into Night, and it's got, and I'm so sorry not to know his name, but it's got the actor who then went on to play Ziggy in Ziggy the computer in Quantum Leap.
Oh,
so for me, as a child,
Dean Stockwell.
No, not Stockwell. That's the Leaper.
Oh, okay. No, Dean Stockwell's the one who keeps popping up and saying, "Hey, this is what you need now."
It is. I'm so sorry.
What is the point attack of my me? Dean Stockwell. No. Sons and Lovers and onwards. I'm pretty annoyed with you for
it was such a thrill because as a child I was watching Quantum Leap and then being like, wow, here he is young in this like proper play.
Yeah. We should say it was by Trent put it up. It's Frances Cooker. That was she died earlier this year. Brilliant actor, an incredible career as well. So that's what. Should we do our show and tell? Should we? What have you?
You go first, please.
Oh, okay. You go and find something in the room. I love these moments. This is, I showed it very, very briefly on Vitriola the other day. This is Inside Elvis by Ed Parker. I'm not like a huge Elvis fan. I quite like Elvis, and I once wrote a really bad essay for a book about Elvis films, all about Roustabout, which is the one where he's also, it should be brilliant. He's got a motorbike and he does karate, but he does very little karate and very little motorbiking, but Barbara Stanwyck's in it as well. And so I do kind of have an interest in Elvis Presley, but the reason I bought this is because this has of all the biographies I've read so far, and I'm sure people will tell me that I'm wrong on this, but this has the best in terms of covering Elvis's interest in UFOs. So this includes some of the diagrams that Elvis looked at to see how likely in the end. He was, I would say, a kind of UFO agnostic. That was his position. He had a long chat with Ed West. But this book, Inside Elvis by Ed Parker, has the best coverage of Elvis's fascination with UFOs. And I should briefly mention that the episode of Infinite Monkey Cage that we filmed a while ago, back in January, all about UFOs, is back up online now, and you can watch that again. That was great. I found this fantastic. If anyone's read Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, the book of that, there at the beginning, there's a very, very brief excerpt from a House of Lords debate about the likelihood of UFOs and extraterrestrial visitation. It is brilliant. 1979, probably the best House of Lords debate ever. Started by the Earl of Clankerty. Well done for being the Earl of Clankerty and having an interest in UFOs. And it is 38 pages of. In fact, I'm hoping to turn it into a kind of weird theatre piece where I'm going to get a bunch of people to become this debate about UFOs.
How does one? It's all online, isn't it? The records of kind of what's been debated in the House of Lords. It's something I've sort of never really been aware of until literally now. Like, how exciting to think that you could just search the archives and find all kinds of ridiculous debates.
But I've got to say, I've looked, and the UFO one, you know, when you start at one of the very best, and then imagine it, and then you go, oh no, it turns out we started with the number one UFO-based debate. And it's what's brilliant is how literate, in terms of the references and the phraseology, and the, suddenly at one point kind of, throwing in a little bit of Kant, and it's just an incredible, you see these minds. The minds very often of kind of, I suppose, predominantly men who, I don't really have anything to do, so I'm going to collect beetles and have an enormous library, and I'll be able to quote all manner of things. What have you got?
So a while back, I was given this, and I was thinking about it the other day, because I remember this past week we've had guests on. They've been like, "Oh, I've had all this time to go through old boxes of things," and I've been sort of thinking, "Oh, what a luxury!" And then last night, I found a box of things. What a thrill! So this is something that I was given by the artist, and I feel absolutely ashamed that I can't recall her name, but she came to my gig, this would be about 10 years ago, and it's a cut out and keep an Iron Bevan doll with an adventure booklet, including like, oh no, Tory alert, you can put it in the window and stop them from ruining your broccoli. It will protect your patisserie. It's a convivial cohort soiree bonhomie. That's always useful. Office standard. It's just a really funny. Oh wow! And it's got stickers. I didn't even know it had stickers. Nice says unionize. Socialism rules. Okay. I mean, it's very much in my wheelhouse. But it's just a very funny, sweet thing. And I was thinking, if there ever was a time to display a figure of Nye Bevan in your window, it's now. So yeah, this is a very cool thing. The person who made it is her nom de. I don't know whether it's a plume if you're making, but her nom de this is Kath Arctic, but this is so old that it's got her MySpace and her Hotmail, and I just feel like you'd be writing out into the ether, wouldn't you? But yeah, have a look for her somehow online, because this is something I treasure.
That is beautiful. That is wonderful. And we will now go straight. I bet someone who actually got dolls around the house, probably of Lon Chaney Jr. and Senior, I would imagine, some of them with luminous heads. Reece Shearsmith. Hello, Reece. Reece Shearsmith. Hello, Reece. Do you have those? There used to be those models. I forget which company it was. They did Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, they were the Aurora, glow in the dark kits. Yeah, I don't have one of those. I have got Lon Chaney's head over there. If you don't believe me, there he is.
Oh wow.
Actually, not Lon Chaney. It's Bela Lugosi. What am I talking about? It's Bella.
That is. That's really interesting. How different you kind of the sense of that phase. You've obviously the Lon Chaney's somewhere else, isn't it? In another of the rooms.
Somewhere. Yes. I've got various things in this. This is my little magic room. Where I come.
And how are you? Because I know you're doing the new series of Inside Number 9, haven't you?
Yes, we did. We did. I know. And sadly, we filmed for 3 days, and then we were pulled. So it was so annoying. Had we managed to get 2 more days, we'd have completed the first episode of Series 6. But we stopped. So 3 days in, and it got stopped. It was going so well. I've been watching the rushes, and it was really good. So who knows when we'll be returning to it? But we'll have to remount.
That's so deeply.
I know, yeah. It was all set. We had such great, the whole thing was set. We were filming all of them now. So we had guest stars. We just about cast it, all of it. And now it's all gone away. So we'll have to try to regather the people if they're free again. I mean, I'm sure everyone will be free because everything's up in the air, isn't it?
It's such a great big... There's that very weird edition of Night of the Living Dead, where because that was kind of in the, people just seem to be able to get hold of it and make their own versions. I don't know if you've seen it. There was one version that was brought out with the original guy, the original zombie in the graveyard right at the beginning, where he is in it again. They basically spliced it into the original film, but he's now 35 years older, but playing the same part in the same. I don't know if it's a terrible DVD version of it, but I'm imagining now that it was actually 30 years before they could start filming Inside Number 9. We're using the first bit because we haven't got the money just to use that. Yes. It's a terrible version of Night of the Living Dead. But I was wondering where the last series was, magnificent as ever. Yep. How much do you know, or do you have a sense of what are going to be the episodes that really grab people? Because, I mean, obviously, the obvious example, I suppose, would be 12 Days of Christine, which I remember that night that it went out, and I remember seeing just on social media the sense of the impact that had on people.
Yeah, well, we don't, to be honest. A nice game that we play when we finally got all 6, because we don't film them or know the order of which we will film, which we will broadcast them until right near the end of the process, really, and we'll have them, and then we'll think, right, what's a good episode 1? And generally that's decreed by what we think is probably the broadest and funniest episode, because despite the fact that for several years now they've not particularly been that funny, it is purportedly comes out of BBC comedy. So we think, well, one to ease you in if you've never seen it, because we operate on the idea that no one still yet knows what it is. So to have people watch it and think, oh, it's a sort of funny thing. So we'll do, probably if we've got one, we'll do one of the more ensemble episodes with a bigger cast of stars, because we think that will be what hook people in rather than me and Steve. And if it's quite funny as well, so we'll try and do. So the football one was quite a good candidate to be episode 1 of this series. And then we'll do maybe one that is quite left field and different and might still surprise people. So which is why we put in episode 2 of this series was the episode that we did that was a return to Psychoville, which was a great treat for people that knew it. Baffling, I think, for people that didn't. Although some people told me that they watched it and they got it and they'd never seen Psychoville. So I was very pleased that it operated in its own terms, And then so that's. But we never aware of anyone. Then the third episode was the one that was very low key and was just like slice of life. There was no great twist. It was very different to anything we'd done. It was very real, almost improvised, and that felt like exciting to us because it was very different.
I wanted to episode because I loved it so much, desperately. And I listened to your podcast behind it, and you were saying that actually it came kind of, you wrote that one at the end of the series, and it came out of, okay, well, what are we going to put together? It almost was sort of built out of very little.
Yeah, it was a cry in the dark to do something that we'd not done before. It felt like we were looking in a world and looking at a story in a different way. So we just thought, let's not have an amazing twist at the end. How about that?
But it is
a twist. Let's just do a very low key, normal slice of life. There's no consequence particularly. There is a sort of story in there, but it's very buried, and you are expected to sort of eke it out like a winkle. It wasn't a typical number 9 in that way, and so it suddenly felt very fresh to us. I mean, a lot of people hated it and said it was like an episode of EastEnders.
Oh my god! So, I'd like to find anyone who said that. And
so would I, Josie, and I am on the lookout. I can't go out of the house at the moment, but when I get them.
Do you know what we're going to do? Fine, we're going to stick a ready-made doll of Anna and Bevan right up their backside, and that's what because it was. I loved. I think that is what was great about it. One is that what I always enjoy about your writing together is the presumption that the audience are intelligent. Mm-hmm. Because in that episode there are things where, as you said, there's not a grand reveal, but there's a bit where 5 minutes later you go, oh, I've just realised there was a reveal. All of those things, which I think are very hard things to do. They're not just tricks. They're a respect for the audience.
Yeah, and there were definite reveals and revelations that where you thought one thing and another thing very casually turns it on its head. Like for a few days into the Advent calendar, because each little vignette was a day in the opening of the December of, the run up to Christmas, and we just thought that would be a nice different way of telling the story. And then we will not open day 9 and you'll wonder what happened on day 9. But there are some things in there that where you think for about 4 days you think that Steve and Debbie Rush are the characters, the little boy's mum and dad, and it's not, they're the grandparents. And that's a small reveal, but it is a significant reveal about 3 days in. You think, oh right, he suddenly called them grandma, but we hadn't revealed the fact that they were not the mum and dad. So that tells you a little bit about suddenly the family dynamic. And so there were things like that in there, and the actual reveal at the end was very buried and hidden, and people going, what happened? But that's if you're thick.
That's what I love about you. You really don't, at no point do you try and kind of just sugar it. You just go, no, well, if you're an idiot you won't have got that one. There's a great line which is about the greater the amount of imagination used, the smaller the audience you will find. Because people do have, we were talking about Twin Peaks before, which was a success, but the moment it then revealed who killed Laura Palmer, people went, oh, well, what's the point? And then I think that is an interesting thing, that if you watch something and your first reaction is, what's this? Then that's, you need sometimes to come over a little bit further to someone else's vision and to be open to those kind of things.
Yeah. I mean, all we've ever wanted to do with the number 9s, I mean, it's a slight rod for our own back now, but I don't feel that we are restricted. I mean, one way we're restricted, and that's one of the great tools that we have, in the fact that we are always contained in these 9s that are very claustrophobic. The story. Sometimes we've gone out of the room, gone somewhere into a different part of the building, whatever it might be. But that's kept us inventive as far as storytelling and how to tell a story that's that is confined and you were stuck in one place. And we've managed so far to not feel like there has to be. I know people watch them thinking it's only worth the last 25 seconds, but it is the story of getting there that's the reason to watch it. It's not just, I'll just tune in at 10:30, see what that one was, and not watch the whole thing. But hopefully and it's great. We got they commissioned 2 more series.
Oh, fantastic!
We put this press release out, and I said, who knew when we started in 2014 we'd end up with more episodes of this than Country File?
Look, it's just 5 episodes they made.
We should do one that set like Country File. That would be a good twist.
I like your thing of turning on at the end, because I have to admit, something that I do with shows like Lewis quite often and Morse is, much as I enjoy them, I don't have time for the whole 2 hours, so I start watching them on ITV3+1, and then half an hour in I turn on to ITV3, and that saves the hour in the centre. It just gets me straight through to he was the guy that was cyanide, and I get it. Okay,
it's a life hack.
Just acknowledging that there's an hour of padding in the middle.
Yeah, I'm just very impatient. I'm so impatient with thrillers. I wondered what the reaction to, because everyone I know loved Bernie Clifton's Dressing Room, but I wondered if that's partly because, of course, for comedians, there's an extra bit in that. There is that sense of, all of it. Immediately I imagined, 2 sides. I either imagined being at Michael Legg's funeral, or the other version, which is a far more negative one for me, is you, Josie, wandering around and seeing the drunken props that we used to have from our shows.
Oh, well, me at your funeral?
Yeah.
I thought you just had assumed I'd go first, which, is a fair assumption. I'm not looking after myself. Yeah, but I do completely. I think for comedians, it's got this added weight of like how kind of beautiful emotionally it is. And you're like, yes, that's my life too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, that was an example of one that we thought was fine, and people really liked it a lot, and more than we expected, I think, because we just thought it was completely out of the fact that we'd not up until that point done a 2-hander. I said to Steve, we should do one where it's just me and you. We have never done one where it's just us two. And even then we had Sean Gibson came in at the end, but it was sort of ostensibly a 2-hander. We thought we could do this. It was difficult to embark on it thinking there's a very right and very wrong way to get this world right, and we could easily get it slightly wrong, and it would be annoying that for people that knew the world of not even 70s stand-up. It was more 80s, and that was what was even more slightly difficult about trying to get that right. And I don't know whether we did, but it seemed to resonate, and it felt true, because it was what was unusual was to have the props department set mock up old flyers that were from League of Gentlemen flyers of me and Steve when we were 20. And so it did feel very authentically like, well, this is like us, and that we drew on that, and that felt very very emotional in a way.
Do you feel? Oh, sorry, you go first.
No, right.
No. Do you think a lot about the fact that you have been writing together for decades now, and do you sort of have aspirations to be writing together for decades more? Like, do you ever think about you two writing as older men and what that might mean for you?
Yeah. I mean, we're often talking about how we just plod on doing what we do and no one seems to be stopping us. So, and I think, we are very happy with the fact that we're allowed to do these. I mean, it's an amazing thing to think that we can literally have the opportunity to write a half-hour little story and film it, and it's pretty much the way that we write it in a room in North London, and then it's undiluted us, which is an amazing thing. That's what you're hoping you will arrive at, the point where you make a thing and it's not interfered with by execs that don't know it as well as you, and you've got some people might say, well, you need a few more hands. Who are you to be? You need editing. But
these naysayers.
But I know, just one particular person. But no, it's and we do get notes and we do amend them accordingly. And of course, when you've had a good note, because they highlight something that was niggling you anyway, and you go, yeah, I knew there was something wrong with that, and you've also pinpointed it, so it must be. There's obviously something the matter with that bit, so we should amend it. We don't willfully then not address things, but yeah, it's great, and we will carry on writing, I think, as long as we are wanted as a team, and we really enjoy writing together. I've never really written. It's always a means to an end to me to do it, to be in a thing and then play a part that no one else would have ever cast me in. So I just write these parts for myself.
Would you ever, when I kindly wrote a story for the Dead Funny anthology that did a while ago with stories by many different kind of comedians and writers, and Charlie Higson and Josie did one, and Sarah Pascoe, and that is you're the opening story in the book. It's a very wonderful, dark, and then it has a punchline which I think is maybe laugh out loud and gasp. Did you? And I was amazed that was the first time that you'd ever actually written a story for a book. You'd radio, film, television.
Yeah.
Would you go back to that ever, or is that just for the fun of it? That was it.
Yeah, it was more just the fun of it. I've not got a burning desire to sort of write a compendium of short stories. I found it really hard. Found it very difficult to do it and feel like it was worth anyone's time. I thought it's got to be good. I think it wants to be, so yeah, it was a new experience to sort of feel like it was all, as good as it could be, and quite scary and horrible, because it was, it had a remit. But I did enjoy doing it once I'd completed it. I was proud of it, but I didn't find it easy. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I can do that as well. It was much more difficult to write that than write dialogue and write a story via people acting out, incident. I found it much harder.
And you have this kind of enforced downtime chance to go, because I imagine your film collection, your archive must be like, I just pulled out this. I don't know if you've seen the BFI Flipside, who do wonderful kind of weird, yes. and this is a couple of supposed documentaries about witchcraft from the early 70s during the kind of witchcraft boom, and so that's my today's film.
What
have you been watching?
I've been watching. I've not seen all of it yet, so don't say if you've seen it. But I've got into watching Tiger Man, that cat thing.
Oh yeah,
which has been extraordinary.
It's very League of Gentlemen.
It's very League of Gentlemen. Yeah, the world is so you never invent it. I mean, it's bizarre, and it just each episode. I don't know whether it's obviously designed that way, but there is when your jaw is further and further down, and a new incident keeps happening. And the revelations in it are extra amazing. So I've been enjoying watching that. And I've been watching.
Tell me, because I've heard. I've no idea what this is. I've literally no idea. So can someone just give me the bare bones of what's going to draw me into this?
Go on, Josie.
Oh no! I feel like you'll do a better job than me.
Well, I don't really. I'm a few episodes in. It's a man that in America. They're in Texas or somewhere, aren't they? Or Oklahoma. I don't know where they are, but they have huge exotic cat collections. Illegal, I think, by the look of them. Hundreds of tigers in these pens. And it's the sort of feud between the two of these people that own these big cats. This woman that wants to preserve them, and she's very much, it's cruel what you're doing. And yet she's got one herself, and she has people go around it.
And she's got an interesting life.
And then there's a revelation about her that turns everything on its head. And then it's back to him. And it's just each episode, they're 45 minutes. And each time a new thing happens. And it's over years. This documentary, I think, began about the filming. I mean, Louis Theroux did something on the man, but I think it began filming, and the archive footage of this whole world starts in about 2005 or something, and they've got him filmed for years, right until now. Well, that's because he's in prison, and I don't yet know what he's done. I think he might have murdered someone, but I think that we're getting there.
Because I've seen about 10 years ago, which was like all those documentaries which involve those kind of things, which is when someone does get killed in the end, they go, actually, what he was trying to do is he loved him so much. He was trying to protect him. And by trying to protect him, unfortunately, he ate out his jugular vein. And that's what killed him. But the tiger was because you can be friends with something despite the disparity in self-consciousness. Yeah. And it's like that. What's the Werner Herzog Grizzly Man?
Oh, yeah. Oh. I saw nothing but the hunger. What is it? I looked into the eyes of the bear, and I saw nothing but the cold indifference of hunger.
Yeah. We better. I think this is going to go on until our connection fails. Reece, if it's okay, we'll come back to you shortly. But Josie, who is joining us now?
We have such a great show. We have every guest is an absolute delight, and we're going to hear some songs now from a wonderful songwriter and singer and musician who I think is ready. I can see her on her screen. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, please welcome Rozi Play.
Hi.
How are you?
Yes, good. How's it going? Nice to see you.
You too. And you're just down the road from me, aren't you? You're in Hackney as well.
Yeah, neighbours.
Yeah.
Clapton.
Although, again, absolutely a moot point. What are you going to play for us today? And have you got an object to show and tell?
I have. Shall I do that now? Mine's not very good.
Oh,
I'd been looking around for another one.
Mine was my foot one day.
Mine is a bag of hooks. Because I've been going absolutely mental for hooks. I've been screwing in hooks all over the place. I love hooks. It makes the world of difference. Yeah, look, this is a bag of 24, and I just counted. I think there's like 10 left, which means I've put in 14 hooks. And
this having started off by talking about inside number 9, the obsessive hook placement I can only see as a setup for a terrible revelation.
Yes, what I'm actually doing is I'll reveal it later. What I'm doing.
Yeah, you've got to leave it for the last minute. That's how. What are you going to play for us today?
I'm going to play a song called Symmetrical because I realised the first line is alone in a room, so it seems fitting for these times. I hope I've made a little thing to try and play along to, so I hope it can be picked up. Wave your arms around if it's not. Okay, hang on. Here I go.
dream, a realistic dream. They're gone and they hadn't had enough of them. They're gone and they hadn't had enough of them. They're gone and they hadn't had enough of them. They're gone and they hadn't had enough of them. And if you can be told, don't let them let you know. I'd blow in a room. I'd hope
Thank you so much. It's such a joy to hear your voice.
That's wonderful. And you'll be back at the end as well, I think. Is that okay?
Yeah, man.
Fantastic. Thank you.
We'll see you at the end.
And just quickly mention, by the way, I haven't mentioned it today. Also, there is a tip jar on this. We are collecting with all the different shows that we're doing. Hopefully, you enjoy them enough that some of you, if you have a little bit of spare cash, will think, oh, do you know what? That was worth something. And what we're doing is we're collecting that money and we're creating a kind of resource for a lot of the people who've had all of their work cancelled, all the kind of performers and artists that we know who I've never had. It's a really weird thing to have an entirely empty diary. Yeah, I still get every day a new email saying, "Oh, there we go. Now that's the end of July. Then that no longer exists."
August is gone.
Yeah,
the end of August is gone. I was counting the months. I was like, okay, so April, May, June, July, August. All of that is gone, and my new job is cleaning up after a 2-year-old, which I love. But yes, good, great. Let's so forge ahead.
To erase red rum off wall that she's just drawn.
Why has she got a twin?
I should say that basically the resource it's actually there are quite a few performers who are kind of hitting the wall at this, so we're building up a resource for them, and also we're trying to get a resource as well to try and make sure that we can keep some of the art centres, some of the smaller art centres in smaller communities where they are a hub for the community as well, with many other things going on in them, to try and create some money so we can send it to them as well. So that's kind of what we're doing, is to in a very small way trying to keep some of the arts world, which hopefully many of you enjoy, keep something going on in it.
I've worked out why so many YouTubers are so angry and have such terrible views. And it's because, much as I love doing this, I really miss being on stage. And what they don't realise is they're only getting a little bite of the true joy of performance. So they're always unfulfilled. Now, I'm really, really thrilled to introduce our last guest today. He's a brilliant author. He's a screenwriter. He's an activist. I don't know whether the term activist, people sort of use it in like, I don't know, but he's an activist and he's done incredible things. And he's also a brilliant friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nikesh Shukla. Hey!
Hello.
Hi, Nikesh.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
How are you? How are you finding this first kind of couple of weeks of? Were you in a period where you were doing talks, or were you in a period already of a kind of the solitude of writing?
I've had all my teaching cancelled. I've had all my events cancelled, and my next book was out in September, and because a lot of the books that were due out now, publishers are pushing them till the autumn, which is only fair because you want books to come out when people can actually go into shops and talk to booksellers about them and buy them. So my next book's been pushed till next February. So yeah, I've got a clear diary. I'm trying to write, but everything feels frivolous at the moment when you kind of match it up with what's going on. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm working on a novel that I've wanted to write for a really long time that is not under contract. I'm sort of writing without consequence at the moment, which is really nice. Like it doesn't need to be brilliant enough to impress my agent or an editor or anyone else. It just needs to be the thing it needs to be. And that for me is really nice. And it kind of feels like a comfort. And I've discovered the joy of writing again, which is really nice.
My favourite bit, I have to admit, it's a terrible thing to say because I realise for a lot of authors but for me, the one little recompense I go, definitely the deadline for the book that I was never going to finish in June is no longer June. But the bad side is I'm so surrounded by books and changing everything that I thought the book was going to be about. So even though I wasn't going to deliver a manuscript that was going to be 5 times too long like I did last time, really sorry, publisher, I've become... I'm at my favourite bit, which is going ideas. Least favourite bit, editing. What do you find? Some people I know love editing. I hate it. It drives me mad.
I've been really lucky to work with some really great editors, and I think over the years I've just worked out that when an editor makes suggestions, they're not them telling you this is what you need to do. They're basically being a facilitator to kind of help you get the book to where you need it to do. But I have brilliantly weird conversations with editors. Like my editor for my last novel, the one who wrote Destiny. I remember in one of because there's a lot in the book that's about the Hindu concept of destiny and reincarnation. And my editor, there was a bit that wasn't very clear. And in his notes, my editor decided to illustrate his point using Harry Potter, which at the time really irked me because I really hate it when people compare things to Harry Potter. And what I did was, we didn't know each other very well at the time. So what I did, incensed by the Harry Potter comparison, was I cut and paste his comments and I put them into the novel, and I put them as something that a Reddit user says when the character ends up on a deep dive of the internet. And when he came to editing it, was bit passags, Nikesh. And we had a really but it sort of facilitated us having a really great relationship. I basically had to troll him in order to get us to really bond. But I really love having great conversations with editors because they're on your side, and all they're doing is trying to help you get better.
I wondered about climate with in terms of the viewpoint people have seeing social media and comments, and some of the unfortunately the lead trends are nearly always some kind of ghastly gargoyle of a journalist paid to be vapid and venal and vile again. And it's interesting seeing a disparity, because I know that after The Good Immigrant came out and since then in particular, you have been, in terms of the amount of trolling you get, has you could see the world, I would imagine at times, as a very negative thing in terms of, but at the same time, I think at the moment I'm seeing a lot of positive stuff as well. And I wondered what your experience is at this point, as someone who has had quite a lot of trolling in the past, whether you are seeing any rays of sunshine in what's happening at the moment in terms of seeing the positive people come out as well.
I tell you what, I was feeling very positive about the internet until last night. I did a live stream event with my friend Riz Ahmed and Fatima Bhutto and Rupi Kaur. And oh my God, I woke up to a lot of eugenicists sending me Wikipedia links to illustrate their point. And I sort of think, dear Mr. Eugenicist, if your way of proving that race science is a thing is, if your source is Wikipedia, I don't know if you've done your homework, my friend.
But do you also feel really as if the power that those people one time had is so even more depleted now, in terms of it's so stark, the difference between you guys, like a novelist, a poet, an actor and a rapper writing together, making something really beautiful and thoughtful together that's worthwhile and adding, and then just sort of this idiocy surrounding it. It's so the difference has never been more stark and clear, and those things have never felt more fake in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm quite sort of. I don't know. I hope that everyone on earth is feeling that way now. But I suppose evidently there's still some people clinging on to whatever the hell they're trying to.
Yeah, and but I mean, what's nice is like the level of trolling hasn't increased, given that a lot of people have a lot more time on their hands. But then I think I've also been quite. I don't know. I've not. It's not really been the time where I've been putting out provocative tweets about wanting equality that people have had to respond to. So yeah, but apart from that, yeah, it's very weird being stuck at home with two very energetic children. I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we're all so bored. And today, like I managed to get an online shop, and just before coming on, I got an email from them saying we've managed to find all of these things except the Easter eggs, and now I have to break it to my children that Easter is cancelled. That feels sad.
The best thing to say is that the bunny got me. That's it. That's definitely the
happens.
I can actually hear my daughter crying in the next room as we're saying that, and my heart is just like pulling out that way.
Oh no! I've realised even more how. 9 because we get 4 different screens. This resembles various different ones. We've got the hooks being built up, the child crying. Oh man, it's not going to end well. And I'm going to move to ITV3 and see how this ends in advance. Nikesh, have you got a show and tell for us today?
Yeah, I've picked out a bunch of things. So first thing, this is my mum learned Bharatanatyam dancing when she was like 10 at school, and I've got her ankle bell, which is I found because my friend, an actress called Pallavi Sharda, is going to teach my children Bharatanatyam dancing over Skype tomorrow morning. So we were just sort of putting everything together, and also I picked out a bunch of books that people might enjoy reading. Gary Steingart's Super Sad True Love Story, which is one of the funniest books I've ever read about a post-event dystopia. Lost Children Archive by Valeria Luiselli, which won the Folio Prize, which is the best book about illegal immigration and what's happening at the Mexican border that I've ever read. If you just want some beautiful prose, On Earth by We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong is just sentence by sentence the most beautiful book I have read in my life. And you know what? This is probably not appropriate, but appropriate read for now. Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel is about how humanity builds itself back up after a pandemic, and it's a beautiful book about survival and humanity, and it's really beautiful, and I think people should read it now. I know a lot of people have been like, oh, I shouldn't read it, it's quite bleak, but actually, out of the bleakness comes some really beautiful moments. And
even The Road, when I read it, I was like, this is such a loving and tender book. I mean, obviously, I probably wouldn't advise reading that now, but, I love it when people manage to get something stark and then build onto it. Thanks for doing that. It's really nice to get tips of things that might be beautiful and indulgent at this sort of time. You've been doing writing. Sorry,
I was just going to quickly, while we're on the show and tell, I was just thinking that Reece has a show and tell that we haven't done yet. Sorry. And we were talking about things that were beautiful, and I believe that he has something very beautiful for his show and tell.
I don't think it's the thing you're thinking. Metal hip.
Oh, is that what you've pulled out?
Yeah. Well,
I thought you were going to show that.
The homunculus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're all on the floor here. I'll show you them. That first of all is a metal hip. Look at that. They don't do them anymore, but that's titanium. It goes into the bone, and there's your joint. And
where did you get it?
My wife's friend was a doctor, and he had them, and she had them around the house as doorstops. That's a stone there. There's the homunculus from the League of Gentlemen film.
Oh,
which is stop motion. It all moves. There's an armature inside, so that's beautiful. It was going to be thrown in the bin, and I saved it. Can you believe that?
Do you have a favourite thing where you go, we have now got the power where we can ask people to make a thing, and it now really exists. It's solid. Our imagination has become something
that's amazing. That's amazing. But my actual show and tell was remember in the before times when we could go out, and when we first did our League of Gentlemen tour, in the first tour we did in 2003, I think. No, 2000. We all got sent. Me, Mark, Steve, and Jeremy got sent effigies from the Wicker Man. There were these little dolls, and I think I was Lord Summerisle with a long black wig, and Steve got the Salmon of Knowledge, and we were all these weird little characters. We didn't like them. They seemed like they were, I don't know, cursed. So we got rid of them. But also, around that time, I was sent this, and this is, if you can see here, it says left leg. And that is a piece of the Wicker Man itself. Wow. Bit of the left leg. It says left leg. I was told.
It's like Berlin Wall.
I know it is, yeah. It might just be a bit of lolly stick. Who knows? But to me, it is a piece of the Wicker Man. And so when I was invited by John Landis to go and have lunch with Sir Christopher Lee, I took this. Because I thought, I've got to show him now, and this will never happen again. So I took him this, and he wrote on the back, to Reece, this is genuine, Christopher Lee. So suddenly, now, regardless of whether it is or isn't, it is genuine because it's signed by Lord Summerisle himself.
That is so magnificent. When you think that it's been given the papal seal of approval. Exactly, that is the equivalent of, they used to sell straw from the manger, didn't they? And the nails that had been through Jesus, and you now have the contemporary equivalent.
Yeah, anointed. So that was it. It was like, well, that's it now. It's even if it wasn't, it is now. It's real. That
is magnificent. I love these bits. It's like Alan Moore has a small his bones, I believe, that was given to him, but that was left over after he was cremated. Someone went, Alan would probably, but Alan's the kind of person who can look after that well.
What you can do with that is you can pop it in some hot water and make yourself some lovely hallucinogenic tea. This reminds me of a film which I saw, which I really loved, which I hadn't seen due to having a baby prior, which is Can You Ever Forgive Me? Is that what it's called? About literary forgers and about the certificates of authenticity with Richard E. Grant and that incredible actress that I can't remember her name, but I love her. But have a look. I'm so inhabiting being a mum already.
Melissa McCarthy.
Melissa McCarthy, thank you. Yeah, I really recommend it. It's fun, it's interesting, and it's a really good yarn.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Nikesh, in terms of you're that juggling at the moment of getting the of creativity and now full on family existence, how do you manage? Is there technique that you've managed to work out in the family? So because I think it's very hard with writing. You can't just. I think also people who don't write. You can't just sit down and go, I've got a spare half hour.
Yes.
There's this weird run up period of procrastination that then goes and now blah, 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 blah. Oh, there we go, and that's it. And I think, in fact,
I'm really good at shouting. This is what I've learned. I've just been shouting a lot. Streaming platforms like Disney Plus are a godsend at the moment. I don't know. Like, we've just had to turn our days into a routine. We've had to enforce routine upon ourselves. So I get to be creative between 9 and 12. You are eating into my creativity time, utter shambles. And then lunch, and then I'm with the kids until 4 o'clock, when I then seem to spend from 4 till 7 on Zoom. And I've got one episode left on Tiger King. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, like in the last 30 seconds of each episode, they just drop a new thing. And you're like... and so I've got an episode left of that. So, there's just a structure today. I may even be interrupted by a child or by the Easter eggless delivery at any point. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you ever find yourself reading back where, because I found the second book that I wrote, I kind of hammered away like I was Jack Nicholson in The Shining, but with a greater variety of words. And then I sent it in, and then I looked back and I went, this is gobbledygook. This makes no sense, because I'd written it on tour, I'd written it while distracted, and in my mind, it made sense. And I literally had to send an email immediately to the publisher saying, don't open the file, and it was too late. And every now and again, the head of the book company looks at me after a couple of drinks, goes, "I was one of the ones who saw the original manuscript," right? As a kind of vague sense of threat. Have you ever had that where you look back and you go, "That makes no sense. I've just realised now."
Yeah, my first novel. But it's because you're always getting better, or you're always, the more stuff sits with you, the more you realise what it's about. I think it's attributed to Oscar Wilde, but novels are never finished; they're only ever abandoned. And I really believe that, because I could move commas around on my novels till 2025. I don't know. But I really remember sending in a draft to an agent of a novel that became The One Who Wrote Destiny. That was just nonsense. It was utter nonsense. I had this brilliant idea that I was going to write an entire novel in the way that my dad tells stories, and most dads tell stories, which is like long, full of pointless tangents, pausing to go for the longest piss ever.
I would love times.
That. It sounds fun, but on paper it was just nonsense. And I'm really glad she told me it was nonsense. Well, not in those exact words, and it gave me like 10 more years to write it, because when I did write it, I'd kind of figured it out. But yeah, that version of The One Who Wrote Destiny was just utter nonsense.
How does it work with things like? Do you find that you do something like that, you've written the draft, it didn't work, then do you just kind of leave it and eventually you decide to come back to it, or how does that work, that you've now written the novel differently and it's brilliant? What was the process in between?
Well, I fired her on the spot. No. She came back and she had lots and lots of stuff to say about it, and I started working on it, and I think something in me just knew that this wasn't the thing that I was going to do at this point. And so I just put it to one side, and then I ended up writing my second novel, which was this sort of novel about grief and the internet, and Twitter being like this sort of place where we kind of present false versions of ourselves, and then we have to enact those false versions of ourselves in real life, which kind of was something that I'd been thinking about a lot, and it just sort of came a lot easier to me than this other thing, which was sort of thematically, because it was a multi-generational, multi-decade novel. It just needed time. It needed that time within me. And then I kind of came back to it a couple more times. And so it was always there in the background. And she did, was always asking, like, what's happening with that thing? And it was only after The Good Immigrant, when I spent like half of 2016 and 2017 on trains, traveling from Bristol to do events around the book, that I just suddenly had all this sort of, I love writing on trains. There's something magic about it.
I'm so jealous. All I do on trains is sit stultified, melancholy, looking at the scenery. That's all I can do, and I get so many trains.
Reece, I wanted to ask you. You were saying about writing characters that that you think, well, I want to play that. Were there any characters, I suppose, in terms of the recurring characters of Psychoville or League, where you really went, oh, good, today I become this person again? Was there someone that you really loved inhabiting the skin of?
I always enjoyed playing. In League of Gentlemen, playing Jeff, the character, the businessman. He's a very cross character, but I enjoyed doing him. And Mr. Went, and returning to play just for a very brief scene in the Inside Number 9 Psychoville when I played Mr. Jelly. That was fun as well. I mean, some people would say Jeff and Mr. Jelly are the same, but one with clown makeup and one isn't. And that is probably true. But yeah, so they were always enjoyable to do. It was great to do the variety of characters in the sketch show world that we did when we did League. We've not done it for many years now, but that was always a joy to do the anniversary specials and return to a day when we would have like 4 characters each and you would flip between them. And then it became a novelty when we didn't do that anymore. We would do our number 9s where you're one character for the week, and that's like, wow, this is luxurious, just to be able to not have to do all these makeup changes. But young man's game doing all those costume changes.
Does it change though? When those characters change when you've actually, done a live tour? And I mean, it is quite remarkable the noise people make with, I mean, the obvious example would be the moment people hear any hint of Papa Lazarou. That is your Smells Like Teen Spirit. That's your Losing My Religion. Hey, everyone goes. But did you find with other characters like, now I see the way that people feel about them? Does it change the way that you feel about them at all?
Well, it was remarkable to me, genuinely, that I thought when we did our tour into 2018, I think we did the return to the live stuff after having done the anniversary specials, that we'd maybe get 2 or 3 nights somewhere in a theatre, and we did like 47 dates in the arenas, and it seemed bigger and more loved and cherished, and there was such an overwhelming love for the characters in the room again. It was very strange that these people had kept this gallery of grotesques alive for 20 years. It was extraordinary to me. And yeah, it did. You never get that feeling. You make a thing and it's on telly. Your mum will ring you up and say she saw it. And that's it. You don't really have a sense of that. And that was what was overwhelming about seeing that, because you finally got sort of an idea of like, wow, they really know these characters, and they're all horrible, but people seem to like them.
I went to your live show on my 18th birthday, I think, in 2000, or I should be like in 2018. But I've never forgotten it. It was such a wonderful show. Like, I think it just is such a meaningful series to people. And whenever I think about what I love about good comedy on TV, I always think about League of Gentlemen for the detail, the visual details, and the amount of visual jokes in every episode. The richness of the world is just so like brilliant and remains so, I think.
And we tried, to just give it something that would bear repeated viewing, And weirdly, I don't think Royston Vasey, if anything, it's even more. It's prescient. We became it, strangely. It doesn't feel like, that's a 90s show to me. I mean, maybe obviously it is, but it was. I look at it and I think, this still holds up. It's so sort of. It's almost like science fiction. That world seems to have been created and is set in a timeless place that you just sort of still buy now. I think it doesn't feel like that's unwatchable. A lot of comedy, I think it is, but. I hope, anyway, I don't know. People definitely have kept it alive longer than I ever imagined those characters to be worth their time. But I'm very pleased that they have.
I do remember the moment of someone once got in contact with me and said, would you in our front room? We do gigs in our front room every now and again. And I liked sometimes just taking the risk of strange things, just outside Huddersfield. And then as I'd made the journey, I thought, I'm going into a stranger's house. And then I found out it was the town where the local shop was built, where you filmed the local shop. Then it also had... Yeah, that's it. And so that on the hill there was once the local shop, and I was going to play a gig in someone's, and it looked very much like one of the normal houses in Royston Vasey as well. So add a little frisson of excitement.
And that was 25 years ago, and he's just been released.
Yeah.
I think we should probably. I think we are coming to the end of our time, which is so heartbreaking, because we should just all do this all day. We can all play Fortnite. It'll be great. I don't even know what Fortnite is.
That's when we know that the YouTube element has really. I, as a 51-year-old man, decide to start a channel where I start screaming and making noises while I'm playing Fortnite, which is kind of what my son likes watching, and I find agonising. That must be the equivalent of if my parents were, what on earth's this awful noise, if I was listening to The Clash or something. For me, it's a man who shouldn't really be still playing Fortnite with the level of adrenaline that is not required.
What we're going to do to finish the show is we're going to go back to Rozi. Rozi,
hello.
How's it going?
Yes, good. Alive.
Yeah. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah. Tick. Okay. What will happen? Is everyone coming back afterwards, or shall I say goodbye now?
No, we can all just say goodbye at the end, unless people need to go. If you need to go, we'll say, just in case anything does go, say thank you, Nikesh. But we may well come back as well. We'll just find out what happens with the connection.
Okay, see you in a bit. This is a song called The Gap. I hope it works again.
Looking at the gap. Moving away and moving back. Thinking about the gap. Moving away and moving back. Going in. Talking about the gap. Moving away and moving back. Hoping it might come back. Moving away and moving back. Going in. Asking how it might turn out without saying how it might turn out without going in. Going in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming on, Rosie. It's brilliant.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
People can find your stuff at Bandcamp, can they?
Yeah.
And basically, how can people best support you as an artist in this unusual time?
Well, I don't know. I find it really tricky, this bit, because it's like it's really cool. I haven't even quite sort of formulated my own opinion totally about it, but like it's really amazing and important that people can sort of be supporting people that can't work. And it
Sorry.
and
my daughter wants a banana biscuit.
I also feel really sort of conflicted, because there's just loads of people that are self-employed just loads of people that can't work and don't have any way of people saying, please support me while I can't work. And it sort of feels tricky. They're just, I don't know. Yes, I feel feeling tricky about it, but up for quids.
So good. There we go. There was the twist in the end of that. As they say,
Sorry.
It ain't over till the small lady asks for banana biscuits. That's the old saying. Tonight we're back at 6 p.m. or I'm back at 6 p.m. I have Katie Mack, who's written an amazing book about all the different science of how we believe the universe might end. Also, Lem Soussay and Laura Kidd, who used to be She Makes War and has now got a new venture. But Lem's book was one of the best books I read last year. It was fantastic. So we'll be talking about the end of the universe. We'll talk about the nature of childhood and loads of other things at 6 p.m. And tomorrow at 10 a.m. we're back with Ed Byrne, Susie Gage and Lost Voice Guy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Because my daughter's taken them, but it was a real joy to talk to everyone, and I wish we could do it for hours and hours. And yeah, thank you. I'm going to unplug my headphones.
Enjoy your day. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.